Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, yes, Andreea Borcea. I'm based in San Diego, and I run a digital marketing agency named Dia Creative. We've been around for about 5 years now, and it's definitely been a journey to get here. I started my career early on. I went to college and studied marketing and economics, which was a good mix. Marketing was a fun place to start, but I wanted something a bit more challenging, a bit more math-based. And so I leaned into economics there too, which helps actually give you a lot more context to marketing in the sense of understanding the world, the economics, financial pressures that can affect what you're trying to do as a business. And then I took a turn. After college. I jumped into TV, actually. My first job out of college was working for Martha Stewart. And that was an incredible experience. It was the first time I'd ever seen someone like her running an empire, $1 billion empire. I think she's the first female billionaire. And you could tell like everything was built around her and what she needed and what her vision was. And you can actually see in her history, the second they pull her out of it and try to continue her brand without her, it collapses. And that, I think, helps give a lot of confidence and a reinforcement of possibilities to women everywhere that your vision is good. Your vision is right. You have something that you need to put out into the world, and has value, and that's super important. And I think having that be my first real job out of college helped open up my eyes to the possibilities of what could be, what was actually possible, instead of feeling like you had to fit into the existing system as it was. She took something that might be considered traditionally female and built an empire out of it. So suddenly anything's possible. Anything that you can envision, anything that you can believe in, you can make into a business to sustain yourself, but not only yourself, but hundreds, thousands of other people that are all building into that vision. So I worked in TV for a while. Unfortunately, she went to jail and I lost that job. And then I worked in TV for a little bit longer and then moved to the West Coast and started working in marketing using that degree that I got. And I worked for a couple small businesses, which I really loved. You can see the passion, the care, the heart that goes into a small business. And I think that was actually a wonderful way to start a marketing career, because small businesses so often are family businesses. And you can see how important every sale, every expense, everything that you do is so critical, because it's feeding your family. And oftentimes everybody in the family works for that business. And so every single decision you make is so important. And it ends up feeling not just like any other marketing job, but like an honor to be working for something that is sustaining people that you see every day that you know. And I think that that was a lot of the inspiration for creating the agency much later down the line, is wanting to work with these small businesses. But as everybody's journey has twists and turns, I liked the small business, but I really wanted to try something else. So I went from a tiny retail business to a multinational global conglomerate health and wellness medical company. So that was a huge jump into multi-billion-dollar company that kept acquiring other companies. So it was convoluted and messy and complicated. But it did also have a bit of that startup spirit, which I really like to see beyond just small business, but to see what startup feeling is, but with the backing of a larger budget was very interesting. I also learned how slow things can move in corporate, how complicated things can be when you're looking at multiple stakeholders. It was an incredible learning opportunity to learn how to communicate effectively, because when you're in these massive environments with multiple personalities from around the globe, you're talking multiple cultures, languages, priorities. Uh, you put all of that together. And I really feel like that was my masterclass in being able to communicate with anyone on anything. I thought that was super critical. I did debate in college, speech and debate, which I think gave me a good foundation that I could then bring into corporate communication and corporate conversations. How do you get buy-in when people are unsure, or they don't know you, or they don't trust, or they're all nervous about what it means for them, their career, and what they're trying to accomplish? How do you get conflicting personalities to collaborate and to work together? And I found that that was super important to me, is how do you, my natural ability, and something I spend a lot of time working on, is problem solving. I love solving problems. I love seeing messes and cleaning them up. And so in that environment, it was very helpful to do that. And it happens a lot. So it was like seeing places where something got stopped or stuck or siloed, and being the cross communicator across all the departments, which helped me build a lot of relationships, which was critical. I ended up starting as a marketing manager in a small department, and I ended my career there working directly for the chief science officer, and his department, and connecting with all the major leadership across there. But after that, wanted to change again. So pivoted over to start working with more of what people would consider like a traditional startup. So VC funded or bootstrapped startups. And that was an eye-opening experience, especially considering my previous two career stops. Is a lot of the VC funded, investment backed startup culture, I found that I was interacting with the same archetype of CEO. They were all very similar. And it was, like I said, it was very eye-opening. I found that those CEOs were very aggressive, competitive. They told a good story. They often didn't care if the data was accurate, which was very frustrating to someone like me, because I like to see the health of the business as a whole. And if I'm giving you a marketing forecast that tells you where you're going to land, inflating those numbers doesn't actually help anybody. But you know that there was this common practice, and it happened on multiple of these startups that I was working with, where they were inflating numbers to get the VCs happy or the investors happy. And they'd pin people against each other, and their hiring practices were very competitive, and it was internal competition, not even just competing against the outsiders, but internally. And I got very burned out, and I was like, I can't be around this culture anymore. It was very frustrating to see, because I could see a competitor as an example. So one of the brands I was working with had managed to raise, let's say, $10-15 million in VC funding. And there was a competitor in the space, female-led, very similar story to his CEO journey versus her CEO journey. And she was only managed to raise like 6 million. So less than half, I think, than what he was able to raise. And her business was actually running better because she was looking at the whole picture, because of the way she was running her team, because she was looking at accurate numbers and making realistic decisions based on that versus this, hot shot CEO experience, which really, I think, feeds into the VCs. And I found that frustrating. So I took a break. I moved more into being a fractional CMO for startups, and I started selecting the startups and small businesses that I wanted to work with. So being a fractional CMO meant that I could give them senior level marketing strategy from my entire career, from constantly learning. I'm obsessed with reading and watching videos and case studies and seeing what other brands can do. And I could bring that expertise to small businesses that couldn't afford a full-time CMO. And I did that for a little while. And it was really rewarding because I tend to treat every single business that we work on as if it's my own. I dig into the metrics. I understand what the founder's goal is because everyone has a different goal. And I really try to figure out how we can make their business work for them, because that's the whole point. Going back to my roots, going back to my first job in marketing, working for a small business, understanding that this feeds your family. This is so critical. So after 3 years of being a fractional CMO, I found that while we had great strategy, tactical execution was next to impossible because they were a small team, because they were small businesses. So I created Dia Creative. I rebirthed it. It was a name I had used a long time ago. And I rebirthed it into this digital marketing agency. And now we're full service. Now I have a team that I can trust, that I know can execute on senior level marketing strategy effectively and without breaking the budget. And we primarily work with these small businesses. And the small businesses that we work with, we treat as if they are our company. We work as an extension of their existing team. And I find that having a team that understands that struggle, the value, the heart that is in these small businesses, means that we can manage with compassion and empathy and critical thinking and being really clever and trying to find ways to beat the bigger companies, even though we're small with lower resources. And I think that's really powerful. And I'm really excited to see where we continue to go and how many more businesses we can help.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. This is so inspiring to see what you've done with your career and what you've done with your business.
Thank you.
How would you define human-centered marketing in a digital-first world?
That is a great question. It's getting harder and harder to do. AI just feels like the cheap and easy solution, right? And so many brands are falling for it. Let me just write something real quick with ChatGPT. But I think people can feel it. They can sense it when you're reading something. There's something in the back of your mind that's like, that doesn't sound quite right. That doesn't feel quite right. And human-centered marketing really leans on building that community of your people that believe in your brand. And when you have that small business of that is that family connection, people buy into you. They believe in you. They buy your cookies, not because they might be the best cookies on the market, even though they're very tasty, but they buy them because they love you. They want to be they want to tell their friends about your cookie company, right? Like that's what that is. And AI just can't bring that humanity to it. You still have to be the thing that people connect with, because that's what makes you special as a small business instead of some giant brand that there's no one to connect with.
Yeah, it does. You need that human element. You can't do without that. So, what are the biggest mistakes that brands make in their marketing strategy today?
I'd say the biggest mistakes that brands make are not being true to their brand and not understanding their brand and their target customer. I think especially as a startup or small business, but I've seen even the big businesses do this, is every shiny object is very enticing, and you might have a business that makes so much sense on Instagram or Facebook, but it doesn't make sense on Snapchat, but everyone's talking about Snapchat. So you jump over there, or you jump over here, and you jump over there. And that just ends up depleting your resources and distracting you from having a genuine conversation with your customers. So definitely stay focused, know who you are and where you belong to connect with your people.
Yeah, remembering just to play in your lane, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
There's too many lanes out there. There's a new one invented every day.
yes. Now, can you share a success story where a small change led to a big impact?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to brand, there's a brand we worked with that he came in. It was he was very excited to. He swore he knew who his target customer was. We'll start there. He
Okay.
swore he knew who it was. He came in, he absolutely adamant, this is our target customer. This is who we should be talking to. And I always come in a little skeptical because that's my job. I want to make sure we're going to be successful. So I started digging into his data and he was convinced. He's like, nope, women 25 to 35, that's our target market. That's who we should be talking to. Because he was selling magnetic lashes. And I was looking at his data and I was like, you're most of your loyal customers are women in their 50s and 60s that don't want to deal with glue. They just want something easy. And so like opening him up to talking to this other target market made such a difference because these were the women that were actually spending the money, not the women he thought were spending the money.
Oh my gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So, how does dinner table debates tie your vision for inclusion and impactful storytelling?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, dinner table debates came out as a side project, just a passion project of mine. Like I said, I did debate in college, and I I think it's super important that people have these critical conversations with people they disagree with, and
Yeah.
that's getting so hard to do right now. I think so many people block those conversations, stop the conversations, come in defensive or
Mhm.
aggressive. And that's not helpful because at the end of the day, if we have differing points of view, we might still have valid ideas that could be combined
Yes.
into something that's a real solution that works for everybody. So, dinner table debates was how can I take that philosophy and make it into a product that I can actually sell and market?
Mhm.
And I went back to the core philosophy of college debate, which was you get a topic and you don't get to pick what side you're on. You just have
Right.
to debate, which sounds terrifying, I think, to most people. But I loved that fact. So I love that it forces you to not only think about a side you may not agree with, but also
Yeah.
communicate it effectively. So leaning onto empathy, leaning onto critical thinking, honing those two muscles that are so important right now. Critical thinking and empathy, I think, are probably the two most important uh, focus skills that we could build out right now.
It's
And
true.
yeah, and so that's where the game. So I built a game, and it sold out on Kickstarter in 6 days, which was such a
Wow.
huge compliment because sometimes you make something that's your baby, and you're like, I don't know if it's gonna
Yeah.
work or not.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that is
Uh,
wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah,
Oh, I
and
love it.
we've so we launched with one deck, and since then we've had a collab with a Gen Z group, and so we've been working with the conversationalists. We have a Gen Z deck and another deck. We're coming out with more decks, just new ways
Hey,
to encourage people to have these conversations in a less intimidating way.
and there's nothing like doing it through a game.
Yeah,
Best
yeah.
way to learn. So, what's the most overlooked part of a customer's journey, do you think?
I would actually say retention, which is what we focus on a lot at the agency right now. I think
Right.
every single business owner is so excited and so focused on acquiring new customers,
Yeah.
which is true. You need new customers. If you have no customers, you don't have a business.
You don't have a business. That's true.
But so many people focus all their time and effort on acquiring customers and then forget about them once they're like, okay, thank you for your purchase. And then I forget, I don't talk to you. Customer service isn't good. There's no a continued conversation. There's no community, and costs of acquisition for each customer is rising. We're 60% higher than we were last year to acquire a new customer on ads. 60%. So
Wow.
if you don't nurture them, if you don't build out ways to retain them and get them into your community, then you've just
Yes.
spent all this money for what? For one sale? That's not worth it.
Yeah, they do say that it's easier to sell to people you've sold to before than to acquire new customers all the time.
Yes. Yeah,
So
exactly
referring
right.
to customers, I love that. That's a real reminder to anyone out there who has a business. Your customers are right in front of you and you don't even see it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, how can agile marketing methods benefit small businesses in particular?
I think as a small business, you have to be agile. That just
Mhm.
like I said, when I worked for these large corporations, a new website build takes 12 to 18 months. We
Yes.
turn around client sites in a month because you have to, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Everything
that's how you
changes.
be. That's exactly right. Yep. That's how you have to be agile. You have to be up and running. If
Mhm.
things change in your business, if you learn something new about your customers, if there's a new technology you need to incorporate, you need to do it right away and
Yes.
see what works, because by the time your giant competitor has their website launched, you've tested 5 websites. You're
Yes.
done. You're ahead.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Now, how does diversity and inclusion play a part in your content strategy? What role does that play?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest lessons across every major marketing case study
Mm,
is when you have excluded a group or excluded groups of people,
mhm.
you're leaving money on the table. Your business actually suffers, and I think that's the biggest thing you need to consider. And you're building out content, when you're building out your team, when
Yes.
you're connecting with people at all, is I feel like a if you go back to like old school marketing, 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of it was targeting the men at home.
Mm,
Men should buy this, men should buy this. And I feel like really in the 90s, there was this big study that was showing that like 70 to 80% of home purchases are made by the women. And suddenly you can see all the commercials are
that's right.
turning over, and it's the woman that's the center of the commercial.
Yeah.
And everything changes, and that's just a small piece of it, right? Think
Mhm.
about think about the makeup industry suddenly realizing that they should expand into so many other colors potentially in skin tone.
Amazing.
You just ignored 30 to 40% of your market for how long? What a waste, right? What a waste.
So you have to be so aware and awake, otherwise you're losing so many customers
Yeah.
and
And
not.
yeah, and I think not talking to these potential customers is the
Mhm.
big miss, right? Because the other problem you can have is you can make assumptions about certain groups, and that doesn't help you either. Because honestly, most people are very happy to talk to you about their needs. I bet you
Yes.
anything, if you go talk to somebody, it's like, well, what would you like out of your skincare foundation? I'm happy to tell you. Here's 10 minutes of totally free advice. You don't even have to pay me, but can you
Mm,
make it? Because then I'll be happy, right?
that's what I need. Yeah, yeah. So listening to your customers' needs. There was a very famous TED talk that I absolutely love that's called "If You Want to Help Someone, Shut Up and Listen."
It's
And
like,
it's talking to exactly that. We are all trying to produce services and goods, but are we really listening to the customers that need these goods and taking into account what they need? So that's
absolutely.
an important one. So, what trends in content or SEO should businesses ignore?
Ooh, ignore. Um,
Mhm.
Interesting question. So with SEO, I think SEO's always been the channel that's been ripe for the easy way out. a lot
Yes.
of ways. Search engine optimization really, Google started getting big, and everyone was just trying to rank on Google, and Google actually posted out how you get there. So then
Yes.
suddenly there were all these link farms where there were all these fake links because Google said backlinks helped, and then
Wow.
Google got rid of that, and they got a little tighter on their algorithm, and then it said content. So now with AI, everyone's just throwing up a bunch of AI content that is poorly written or doesn't make sense, and that's now clouding up the algorithms and destroying search credibility. So
Mhm.
Google's suppressing that now. So I think that's what it is ignore the easy way out for SEO, because
Yeah.
SEO really just means create content that people want to find. If
Right.
if you go back to the core value of here's my customer, what information would make their lives better or easier, and you create that, you're going to win at SEO. And
Yeah.
the new thing is GEO, which is generative engine optimization. So ranking on ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, ranking on all
Great.
those. Yeah. So it's ironic. AI content doesn't help you rank on AI, but genuine human content very much helps you rank on AI.
And this just goes to prove that we can't get rid of the human element in everything we're doing, right? Um, it doesn't matter how good AI is, the human factor is still absolutely crucial. That's good news. So, what is the biggest lesson that you learned as a CMO and a founder?
I think the biggest thing I learned when I started the agency, I wanted to start it different than my past experiences, especially with those startups and that competitive, aggressive, you know, dog eat dog culture. And
Yeah.
I was a little nervous because I didn't like it, but I was also like, is that the way you have to be to succeed? Like,
Yes.
so but instead I said, you know what, I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna build the type of business that I love to be in, that I want to be a part of. And I think my biggest learning 5.5 years in is that it works. We are compassion first. We are 100% remote, and that's never changing, which means we give our team the flexibility to be anywhere they want in the world. We have multiple digital nomads on our team. They just bounce around the world, but they show up for
Love
work.
that.
They bring in all of their perspectives from all their travels, so you're learning from all these different countries, which is very unique. And
Mhm.
it means that we always get the best people because we can get them from anywhere in the world, right?
And the job gets done at the end of the day, which is the important thing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's amazing. But I like the fact that you have that global perspective because your staff are all over the world.
yeah,
You're not limited to one world view.
yeah. And with marketing, especially now with how fast it moves, you have to be innovative. And so the most innovative thing might be, our marketing manager who's in Georgia right now, she walks by a wine bar and sees a really interesting promotion they're doing, and then she brings it back to her jewelry
Wow.
client that's based in San Francisco. It's like that gives her so much more of an advantage than
Yeah,
someone that's stuck in an office in a strip mall in Tennessee or something, right?
so true. Yeah, you never really think about it like that. There's so much innovation out there if you're awake and aware. So, how do you balance creativity with data in your marketing decisions?
Absolutely. Data, I think, is your guide. It should always tell you, it should be your way of determining what's true with what
Right.
works or what doesn't. But
Mm.
creativity is your experiment. Creativity is where you get to try and see how you can be clever and
Mm.
what you can do. And then the data tells you what worked and what didn't, right? So
Right.
be open, experiment, and then figure out what worked.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Oh my goodness, I could talk to you forever. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to women starting out in branding or digital strategy?
I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is trust yourself to be you. You have a unique perspective. You don't have to fit into what you've seen in the rest of the market and what else exists. You you bring in your own unique perspective. That's very,
Yes.
very useful and very helpful. And I love that. That's why it's so important to have that diverse team you were talking about, because then you get 15, 20 different perspectives all coming to the table, and we can debate and discuss and come back with something amazing. So coming in with that critical thinking, that compassion, that curiosity, always coming in with curiosity. Well, why do you think that? Or why do you think that worked? Or why do you think this is good for this brand? Having those open conversations, I think, is huge. So come in curious, trust your perspective, and learn and grow.
So how is your agency using AI to enhance content strategy, branding, or SEO for your clients?
Great question. We primarily use AI as a sounding board. So we'll use it for brainstorming efforts. We'll use it sometimes to clean up data and organize data a little bit faster than you can do on a human level. We don't tend to use it for content creation just because it still feels fake, and that's just not going to work right now. But it can be a really good way to get your gears going a little bit faster.
Yes. So what advice would you give to small businesses that are looking to adapt AI tools without losing their brand's human touch?
I think it's about finding the right AI tools, right? I warned earlier about shiny objects, and this is definitely a huge shiny object. I think the last study I read said something like 100 new AI apps are born every single day. So how do you even know which one to use? So I think instead of jumping in to try every shiny object, look at your business and say, where are my gaps? What could I actually need help with? Is it a content calendar? Well, then let me find a specific AI that helps me build out a content calendar, because that's the gap I need to fill, rather than the other way around where I'm going to try 1,000 different AIs and they're all going to save my business, right?
Yeah, that is so good. I'm going to end our interview with two last questions. In the one, I'm going to teleport you back to the younger you, the young woman who went into the world of business on her own, broached out and discovered compassionate leadership. If you could go back and give yourself 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be?
Good question. So 3 nuggets of wisdom I would give my younger self. I think one, when you're young, you're definitely brave and excited and eager to try anything and do anything. But I do think that tempering that excitement with understanding and learning and taking the time to learn from others. So I think absolutely the first nugget is learn, and don't assume that you know everything. Always find good opportunities to learn and grow and understand what's working for other people. Always going in curious and digging in. I think the second thing is coming in, secondarily learning, but curiosity and compassion when working with other people. I think one of the most important skills you could learn today is how to communicate effectively with a large, diverse group of people. That doesn't necessarily mean speaking to a room of 300, but it means being able to speak to 300 different people with their unique perspectives. And I worry that's getting lost right now with the younger generations, and the fact that there's always a digital screen as their filter in everything. So absolutely learn how to communicate, learn how to adapt to other people's communication style. And finally, know what you want, know who you are. Same thing for the brands. I tell all my brands, you need to know who you are as a brand, what your purpose is, why you exist, why we should care, and who you're talking to. Same thing for you as a person. What's your value system? Why are you here? What should you be doing in the world? What do you want to be doing in the world? How do you want to contribute? Because I think if you don't know that, it's very easy to get lost. And it's not something you need to know overnight. And it's not something that isn't going to change as you change your experiences in life. But knowing who you are today and who you want to be tomorrow can give you such clarity. And a lot of that just comes from you exploring who you are.
Oh, I love it. Last question. I'm going to teleport you into the future this time. And we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. She's sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her family, her fur babies, her grandchildren, whoever's with you at the end. If you could teleport and meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her? And I'll tell you why I like to ask women this question before you answer. I feel that a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in us. She's that quiet voice that tells you, go left, go right, quit your job, start your own thing. But we're always looking outside of ourselves for answers instead of going within. It sounds like you have been listening to your wise woman. She has been guiding you very divinely. So, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
That's yeah, I love that. I think that's so true that it feels much easier to look outside of ourselves. So if I got to speak to my 90-year-old self, um, I think I'd want to make sure she's proud of me and proud of what I've done and proud of what I've accomplished. And then coming back to who I am and my value system, I'm very curious. So I'd probably be like, okay, so what happened? What happened between now and then? How did we survive? How did we get past these things? Because I think that just comes from that overall curiosity. But I think the biggest thing is knowing that I'll be proud of who I am and what I've done, even if it wasn't perfect.
I love it. I could talk to you forever on this subject, but I have to let you go. Andreea, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your wisdom with our community. And I will end with the last thing. For those who are looking at being leaders, what does compassionate leadership look like to you? And how can we learn how to be compassionate leaders? What are the key pillars to that?
Compassionate leadership to me means being open minded, uh, coming in assuming that everyone can do the job, and giving them the room to do that. I think we've taken in a couple employees that came from more traumatic work experiences before, and it took them some time to understand that, if something goes wrong, if you've made a mistake, that it's not the end of the world. You're not going to get chewed out. It's not terrible. And I think you have to build that culture of telling people that, of course, you're going to make a mistake. You're human. It's your first week. Of course, you're going to make a mistake. You've been here 2 years and you didn't know something, or something happened. I think coming in assuming everybody's here for the right reasons and everyone here is trying to do their best, and coming in with that curiosity and exploring why things went wrong builds such an amazing culture of accountability. So frankly, as a founder, it's not all on me anymore as it is for other people. When you have that competitive space, it's all comes back to, like, it's always the CEO's fault. Everything comes back to the founder. But I have such a team that loves each other and cares about each other and wants to lift each other up, that when one person makes a mistake, 5 people jump to help them. And I don't have to do anything, which is amazing. So I think that's really the value of compassionate leadership.
Oh, I absolutely love that. That is beautiful, and a beautiful way to end our interview. Thank you so much, Andreea. And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Andreea, thanks again. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Getcher.
Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the HerStory Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.